Thank you very much for that warm welcome. Madam Speaker, honorable member of the Seimas, people of Lithuania, ladies and gentlemen. It's an immense honor for me to be invited by the President of the Lithuanian Parliament to address the honorable members of the Seimas here today. The Seimas is not only the home of Lithuanian democracy, it is also a symbol of Lithuania's contribution to the reunification of a free and democratic Europe after decades of Cold War and insurmountable borders cutting our continent in two. 35 years ago, you, the people of Lithuania, bravely stood up for freedom and independence. You peacefully and courageously opposed and eventually defeated totalitarian oppression and subjugation. I still vividly remember the pictures of the Baltic Way in 1989. 2 million people coming together to form a 600-kilometer long human chain. In 1990, when your people stood up and declared their country's independence, and again in January 1991, when Soviet tanks tried to destroy that very independence, the world witnessed something extraordinary. A resolute nation defying one of the most powerful regimes in history. Lithuania's story, your story, is one of courage, determination, and unwavering belief in the values we all hold dear: democracy, freedom, and the people's right to shape their own future. Today, these fundamental principles and values are under attack once again. When Russia invaded Ukraine, it started a war against our freedom, a war against our stability, and a war against peace, a war threatening the international order as a whole. Every day, innocent lives are lost in Russia's illegal war against Ukraine. And here at every place I see the Ukrainian flag. Thank you for that. A war that causes unspeakable suffering to the Ukrainian people, not just on the front line, but right in the middle of their everyday lives, in cities and villages, in restaurants, hospitals, and schools. In pursuing its imperial aspiration of restoring Russia's hegemony across large parts of Eastern and Central Europe, Russia's leadership shows nothing but contempt for international law and the rules-based international order. We are witnessing how Russia is rapidly gearing up its armament production and dramatically building up its armed forces. All this leaves no doubt. For Russia, for Putin's Russia, Ukraine is only the beginning. Already today, Russia is trying to undermine the unity of our societies, of the European Union, and of NATO with hybrid means. Putin's real enemy, let us say that quite clear, is our free and independent democratic way of life. He is afraid of it, ladies and gentlemen. Values the Lithuanian people have fought to obtain for decades. We must ensure that Putin cannot and will not have his way. He must not succeed. The consequences would be horrific, not only for Ukraine, not only for Europe, but for all freedom-loving countries around the world. That is why Germany is one of the strongest supporters when it comes to helping Ukraine to restore its territorial integrity. It is our common responsibility to strengthen its resilience. And it is in our power to support Ukraine in fighting and winning this war, ladies and gentlemen. And I can assure you that we will not relent in our efforts. It is in our national interest, and it is an issue that matters to me personally. But I don't need to tell you how much Russia's attack on Ukraine has increased the threat to European security. You have had to deal with an immediate, dire threat from Russia and Belarus for years. In 2014, we all woke up to Russia attacking Crimea. But instead of responding to this wake-up call like you did, many of the others, including us, turned around and hit the snooze button. Members of Parliament, I grew up as a child of the Cold War. I vividly remember the tension in this period of fragile stability. For more than 40 years, Germany itself was at the front line of that divide, split between two worlds, between democracy and dictatorship, between freedom and oppression. I know, and so do many other Germans, what it feels like to be the eastern flank. For many of us, NATO was not an abstract concept. It was a shield that safeguarded our freedom. We remember with a deep sense of gratitude how we were able to rely on our staunch allies. I recall how these allies became friends. Friends that were ready to stand up and to defend our territorial integrity and common freedom. Today, our Baltic and Eastern allies can expect the same from us. Your security is our security. Your freedom is our freedom. Your sovereignty is our sovereignty. This is our unwavering commitment. Last year in June here in Lithuania, I announced the decision of the German government to deploy a full combat-ready brigade here in Lithuania, in response to Lithuania's request and in full alignment with NATO's defense and force planning. The decision has become a lighthouse project of the Zeitenwende, a strong message that for us, national defense is collective defense, that Lithuania's security is Germany's security. With our decision, we underscore the strong bonds of partnership and friendship between Germans and Lithuanians, bearing in mind the terrible experience Lithuanians had to go through with Nazi Germany in the first half of the last century. This friendship means a lot to me, personally, and to the German people. With our decision, we reinforce the strengths of our alliance and we deliver on our promise to protect a free and democratic Europe. Our soldiers will stand shoulder to shoulder with Lithuanian forces, ready to defend this country, just as the alliance as a whole is prepared to defend every other inch of NATO territory. Since I took office in January last year, there have been few countries I got to know equally as well and cherish as much as yours. The intensity of exchange between our two ministries and our armed forces is unique. I have lost count of the number of meetings I had with my colleague Laurinas Kashinas and his predecessor, who visited Berlin just 2 weeks ago and who will travel with me to Szczecin later today. The extent of coordination at all levels is truly outstanding. We have experienced firsthand why Lithuanians have earned their reputation as people that get things done. I would like to thank you, the honorable members of Parliament, for your strong and unwavering support in the implementation of this decision and the build-up of the brigade. Be it passing the law recognizing military infrastructure as a project of national importance, which greatly helped us speed up our planning process. Be it the crucial role you played in adopting an impressive defense budget amounting to 3.2% of your GDP, or be it your support for the opening of a Rheinmetall ammunition factory, which will help to further intensify our defense partnership. All of this shows your dedication and the extraordinary level of commitment for which I would really like to thank you. The ratification of the stationing agreement by the Seimas will be another very important and crucial milestone on our common path. I would also like to express my sincere gratitude to our German members of Parliament, some of whom have come here with me today and whose support of this historic project is crucial. Last but not least, I would like to say how grateful we are for the warm welcome extended to our service personnel here in Lithuania. We do not take this hospitality for granted. It will further reinforce the bond between our nations and between our people. I have heard many stories from our soldiers already, being greeted in the streets and being thanked for their service, stories of local people buying them a cup of coffee to say thank you. These experiences are moving not only for our servicemen and women, but also for me personally as a German Minister of Defense. And I'm glad that your newly appointed Brigade Commander, Brigadier General Huber, is here with us today. And I'm sure that in a year or two, he will have many more stories to tell about how our two people have forged new friendships and bonds. Bonds that will last for many generations to come. Bonds that will go far beyond the mere military cooperation. Bonds that will shape the relations between our two peoples. Ladies and gentlemen, this deployment is not just about deterrence and Germany's commitment to the security of our allies. It is about partnership. It is about strengthening the bonds of trust and cooperation between our nations. This is in our shared interest, and it is our shared responsibility to make this flagship project a success. We all are and remain committed to the roadmap that we have agreed on last December, with a clear goal to deploy the brigade to Lithuania by 2027, provided that the necessary infrastructure is operational by that time. The activation staff will be established later this year. By 2025, we plan to deploy roughly 500 service personnel. In 2026, we will transfer further personnel as well as the command of our multinational battle group in Lithuania to our brigade. Step by step, we will reach the milestones set out by our roadmap. Together, we will achieve the goals that we have agreed upon. In this endeavor, we can build on what is already a strong and robust bond that is now entering into a new era. Our bilateral relations are based on solidarity and partnership in the EU and in NATO, as well as on a close network of contacts in business, science and academia, culture and society. In the field of defense, Lithuania and Germany have cooperated in various forms for decades, for example, by attending each other's military academies. The chair of the Committee on National Security and Defense of this Parliament, Arvydas Pocius, who served as Lithuanian Chief of Defense 10 years ago, attended the German General Staff Officer course back in 1997. What a great sign of our long partnership. In 2017, Germany took the lead of the multinational battle group in Lithuania in response to Russia's annexation of Crimea and its hybrid war in eastern Ukraine. Service personnel from Lithuania and Germany jointly participate in exercises such as Grand Quadriga, Northern Coasts, or Baltops. Yet another proof for the excellent cooperation between our countries. Our servicemen and women also jointly take part in international missions like KFOR or UNAFOR. Already today, both armed forces rely on the same armored fighting vehicle, the Boxer, and on the same howitzer for the artillery troops, the Panzerhaubitze 2000. Germany stands ready to also assist Lithuania in building up an armored brigade with modern main battle tanks Leopard 2A8 once the procurement decision in Lithuania has been made. We all know, and this is crucial, by using the same equipment and by becoming more interoperable, we can increase the effectiveness and combat power of our jointly operating forces and ideally improve interchangeability. We see great potential to expand our bilateral cooperation, be it on defense projects as part of cyber initiatives, in the field of energy security, in trade and investments, and also in the field of culture and language. This is why we welcome the strategic guidelines adopted by the Lithuanian government, which aim to strengthen our bilateral relations even further. Ladies and gentlemen, multinational cooperation is part of our German DNA. That is why we have been one of the main allies that contribute to strengthening NATO's eastern flank. The German armed forces are ready to become a central pillar of conventional deterrence and defense in Europe. We are aware of our responsibility as a central logistic hub in Europe to make sure that troops can rapidly move from the Atlantic to the eastern flank if necessary. We are contributing substantially to all domains of the NATO force model. By next year, more than 35,000 German troops, 200 aircraft, and 2 frigates and additional forces will be operationally ready within just 30 days. Germany has been a key supporter right from the start when NATO started to gradually build up its presence in the Baltics over the past decades, starting with air policing in 2004. Right after taking office last year, I launched the 3+3 format that brings together the 3 Baltic allies and the 3 framework nations, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Germany. This format has evolved into a multi-layered architecture that taps the potential of cooperation between all 6 nations. It creates a maximum of synergies and increases the effectiveness and credibility of NATO's deterrence at its exposed part of the eastern flank. At the same time, the multinational Corps Northeast in Szczecin and the German-Netherlands Corps in Münster have become NATO's central multinational warfighting headquarters for deterrence and defense of the northeastern flank. Germany supports Lithuania's aspirations to become a framework nation of the multinational Corps Northeast, together with Poland, Denmark, and Germany. When it comes to our defense budget, I'm working hard to ensure that our spending and investments will continue to rise, and it needs to rise. 2% of GDP is only the baseline of our defense spending. This is a decision of the heads of state and government of the alliance, and this is the basis of our defense planning in Germany. All NATO partners must move beyond these 2%. Lithuania is a role model in this regard, also for my country. We are doing everything to prepare the Bundeswehr for the challenges of today and tomorrow. This includes speeding up procurement processes, restructuring our armed forces, as well as rethinking and improving our recruitment and retention process for service personnel. Germany, like many other countries, suspended conscription after the end of the Cold War. That was a mistake. Time has changed. Germany needs to introduce a new form of military conscription. Only by doing so will our army prevail in a state of war. Ladies and gentlemen, we will only deter aggressors by leaving no doubt. We are ready and we are capable of defending every inch of our territory. Effective deterrence requires close coordination between NATO allies, and it also requires more European efforts within NATO. The necessary means for that are all well known. We need to spend more money. We need to become more effective, and we need to work together more closely without putting national interests first every single time. Increasing our efforts to reduce the fragmentation of weapons systems in Europe is crucial to that end. I mean, we cannot afford to have 6 times as many major weapons systems as the US. We have to pool our resources. We need to translate our common responsibility into common strengths. And we need to join efforts to close our critical capability gaps and to procure the same weapon systems. The fact that the new European Commission will, for the first time, have a Commissioner for Defense and Space sends a very strong message. And with Andris Kopilius, it will be a Lithuanian who brings a huge deal of experience to that job. The European Commission can play an important role in strengthening our Europe defense industrial base. In other words, we need a Commission that will provide the right incentives to produce and procure critical defense equipment, standardize and harmonize our efforts, and accelerate joint procurement. Only then will we Europeans finally be able to bridge the gap between soft and hard power. We need a stronger and more united Europe for the sake of a fairer transatlantic burden sharing in a world of multiple threats and challenges. And last but not least, we need to enhance our political cohesion by further aligning our various interests. We need to be able to define our own interests and collective objectives. Or simply put, we need to show a more unit front. Today's strategic environment calls for bold investments, political will, and a strong commitment to collective security. And above all, it calls for bold and swift action. Ukraine has been a wake-up call, maybe the last one we will get. Members of Parliament, we still have a long way to go, but we are by no means at the beginning. In fact, in standing here today, I repeat it, it's a real honor and a privilege for me to be here. I'm reminded of how far we have come since those darks of the Cold War. And to be honest, that touches my heart. We now live in a European Union bound by common values and shared goals. I'm also reminded of how far we have come in European cooperation and friendship. We Europeans know that peace and security must never be taken for granted. They need to be defended by our generation and those to come. And I'm convinced, together we will ensure that Europe remains a place of peace, security, and hope for generations to come. A Europe that is united and speaks with one voice. That is what our commitment and what the German brigade stand for: unity. Yushu Saugumas, ira irmusu Saugumas. Germany stands with you now and in the future. Thank you very much.